It's time to get your geek on with Dave Vermillion.
All right, so I want to move into something a little more fun and replace our usual discussion segment with something a little more interesting. And this is called You Be the Judge. We're going to take a topic that the two of us will debate. The third person here will moderate and kind of keep us on track, the best we can. And then we'll put a poll up on our Facebook page, and you get to decide who wins. Who wins the argument? Who was right, and why is Goose wrong? You get to decide.
What if I'm not involved in that particular matchup? Am I still wrong?
Yes, you are.
Lord.
You just always are. That's Facebook.com/GYGO Radio. You can cast your vote there. And here it is. It's going to be me and Goose going at it. And the topic is Star Trek Insurrection a bad movie?
Yeah. If you see Klingons, better make sure that your face is out. And if you're in the fleet, rep your uniform, cause it's future chic. All the haters now, we got photon torpedoes. Throw the Vulcan up if you're not from Romulus, and stay with me now, live long and prosperous.
Just beat me up, Scott, eh? Just beat me up, Scott,
Here we go. Yes, so here we go. Is Star Trek Insurrection a bad movie? Dave says yes. Goose says no. Okay, so that being said here, Goose, you're gonna go make your point for the movie, and to avoid nitpicking. And yes, y'all can chime in on this as well. And just like David Letterman used to say, no wagering.
Okay,
so
well,
go ahead, Goose. Go ahead and start.
First of all, it came out in 1998. It was the first CGI Star Trek movie. Of course, in this one, yes, every Star Trek movie focused a lot on Picard and Data. But in this particular case, we also got to see what we've wanted to see for 11 years. That's the coming back together of William Riker and Deanna Troi. Of course, Worf was back on the ship, so we got the entire next-gen cast, sans Wesley Crusher, because really, why? Why would we need him? That was also, the Briar Patch was a great special effect. We got to see Jonathan Frakes sans beard for the first time since season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation, unless you count the flashbacks in Shades of Grey from season 2, which we actually don't. So that was nice as well. No ship got blown up, really. No ship got destroyed. And, all in all, that is a very good moral story about a forced relocation of a population. Star Trek is very good at telling morality tales, much better than Star Wars, to be quite honest with you.
Hey.
And this one was a great allegory.
Mr. Moderator, I hope you're noticing the cheap shot there.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait a second here.
But we got to see more than just Picard and Data, and we got to see a little bit more Geordi. We got to see Geordi without prosthetics for the first time.
Okay, we got to start wrapping this up.
So
you're supposed to be making 1 point here. Come on now.
Well, I'm just talking about how he said talk about how good it is and what makes it great.
Alrighty. Okay, now that being said, up over here, across the board up over here, let's see what Dave has to say.
Okay, so here's my rebuttal to your points there. First, it's
there we go.
It's the 90s. I mean, that right there, that's a strike against it. That's not in favor of it. The special effects that you talked about, yeah, that's on par with like Babylon 5. I mean, seriously, I think I've seen better.
That was better than Babylon 5.
Wait. He's got the floor.
I think I've seen better special effects on an episode of Sequest DSV. Yes, I just went there. As far as Worf being on the ship, you notice there's no reason for him to be there other than they keep trying to invent excuses. In First Contact, they brought him on because he was commanding the Defiant with like the B team or something. All right, so he had to be there. Now in Insurrection, he's not only is he there, Picard is surprised to see him. You don't know what officers are coming on board. He's like, "Oh my God, Worf is here," for no apparent reason. And then you brought up Riker, and now oh man, it's so awesome to see him. Yeah, he also used the manual steering column. He used a freaking joystick to steer the Enterprise. I'm like, what are you kidding? That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And finally, my last rebuttal here, the forced relocation of the moral. You remember a certain episode where Picard was ordered to relocate a group of Native Americans, and Wesley, intervened and then got shot down? You notice that Picard in that episode versus Picard in Insurrection are complete opposites. In that episode, Picard is under orders to relocate them, and he does. He's under orders to force them if he has to, and he tries to. But yet, in the movie, he does everything he can, including defying the orders of the Federation Council and the Admiral, to keep this group of indigenous people there that didn't happen to be Native American, and try whatever he could to not relocate them. It's a complete hypocrisy based upon the episode.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I got 10,000.
So could I answer
Wait,
at
hold
least-
on. Wait, before we do, I have a feeling we should just cue up the Star Trek, dun 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 dun, because that's about to get heated here in a second. All right. So, okay, Goose, your point.
So going back to that episode from season 7 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, if you remember, Picard wasn't behind that order completely. He was ordered to do it because of the treaty between the Cardassians and the Federation that actually ended for reals the Cardassian War.
Yes,
The Cardassian War
but
had
he was
happened
following
before.
orders.
He was following
Wait,
orders
wait,
because he
let
had
him
to,
talk.
and Wesley was very much against it and almost convinced Picard to do it. In this case, Picard learned his lesson, and it wasn't that they were upfront about it. It was Starfleet was being less than honorable in how they were doing it. And if it's one thing that Captain Picard is, it is honorable. He will do something he doesn't want to do, but he will tell you about it to your face. He will try to get your buy-in on it versus trying to do it behind your back, which is what the Admiral and the Sona were doing in Star Trek Insurrection. He was actually on the right side for the right reasons, doing the right thing. In the episode that you're talking about, he was doing the wrong thing for the right reasons because it was an order and it was to keep peace in the galaxy.
Okay. That being said, just to kind of, which movies was this one about again?
This one was the Sona and the Baku and the Briar Patch.
Oh, the
The one where Data goes crazy.
which one was that? Okay,
See, can he?
It's between First Contact and Nemesis.
is that the Fountain of Youth thing?
Yes.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember that one. Okay. Now, Dave, go ahead and say.
Okay, so here's my point against it. I'm only going to make one, other than the hypocrisy of Picard himself, and all the lousy production value that went into this, the physics that didn't add up to any of this whatsoever. Here's my main point: is that Star Trek is all about humanity's journey forward. It is all about improving ourselves, progressing ourselves with technology. And this movie is the complete opposite. It's all about how we should return to our roots. And machinery is bad, except they had a dam and that whole wheel turning thing for the water and the irrigation system. But machinery is bad, technology is bad. We should return to our roots and be who we are. And that is exactly the opposite of what Star Trek is about. They're preaching the wrong message.
I have 10,000 quad links on the newcomer, by the way, on this one. Anyways, okay,
So
so go ahead.
I do believe that in that case, either extreme is bad. The overuse of technology as what the Sona were doing versus the underuse of technology, which is what the Baku were doing. In fact, that's how the Sona became the Sona in the first place, is because they rebelled and left the Baku. Picard, the crew of the Enterprise, typically have that balance that we're looking for. Picard doesn't read his books from a pad. He reads actual books, with paper in hand. So Star Trek in that case is not so much teaching that technology as bad as the over dependence on technology and science to unnaturally extend life and unnaturally extend youth. That was bad.
I knew you were going to go there. So I'm going to bring this up. The episode called Family. It's the end of the Borg trilogy.
Yes.
In there, where his brother Rene wants to use. He hates replicators. He hates modern. That's not Rene. That was his nephew. But his brother hates technology. He doesn't want to replicate. He doesn't want any of that. But his wife keeps pushing him to do it. Picard keeps pushing him to do it because you have to adapt with the times, and technology helps us move forward as a people. Whereas in this one, they not only preach that we should get back to our roots, but they actively slam technology by saying that when you make a machine to do the work of a man, you take away the man. You take away something from the man, which, by the way, is not only a little misogynist in itself, but it also, it's telling us that we're losing part of our soul through technology, which since the 60s has been at the core of what Star Trek's all about.
But again, that was a Baku. That was the leader of the Baku who said that, and that was their lifestyle because they depended on technology so much in their past that they wanted to get away from that to kind of focus more on themselves. But when you talk about Star Trek, you talk about Starfleet and the Federation. You don't necessarily talk about the guest stars, for lack of a better term. So in this case, the Baku and the Sona were the extremes. Picard was trying to find middle ground, but the sonar weren't having it, and the Baku weren't having it either. But in that case, you just leave the Baku alone. You don't take away their stuff. You don't remove them from their planet because they're not hurting anybody. It's not getting in the way of an alliance of any kind. You just leave them be.
Okay, guys, keep in mind, no nitpicking here, okay?
Well, now's the time for nitpicking.
Okay, well, okay.
So, all right, so
All right, how about it?
here's one of my nitpicks. I don't understand why Data's there at all. All right, Data. All right, first of all, the whole premise doesn't make any sense because they built the observation platform within easy view of the village. When they did the episode Who Watches the Watchers, it's miles away where nobody could stumble upon it. And what, did they beam up the rocks and beam down the base at the same time? Did they beam down bulldozers in the middle? I mean, what did they do there? That didn't make any sense. Secondly, Data is the worst person imaginable to be looking after, observing humanity, because every time he's tried before by himself, it's ended in disaster.
That's an interesting point there, Dave.
Yes, and with the beginning of that movie is very much contrived. The Data's there so the Enterprise can go get him.
Ding, pretty much. That was it.
Yes.
And not only that,
However, we got
wait,
to
wait,
hear
let me start.
hear Worf sing a Gilbert and Sullivan song.
which brings up another nitpick.
Oh, boy.
Another nitpick. The whole part, which okay, yeah, British stars, that was kind of cool. But at the same time, that scene itself also didn't make a lot of sense. Picard pushes 2 buttons on the console, the song comes up.
Well, maybe he had,
2 buttons.
It was his
iTunes.
preset.
He had iTunes at this point,
When the ship starts spinning, nobody's wearing a seatbelt, nobody flies out of their seats.
It's artificial gravity.
No.
Well, would they hold
no,
on, wait,
because
wait,
people
wait, wait.
hold on, because people fly
I-
across the bridge whenever there's an explosion all the time on Star Trek.
Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure they still have to do that little Star Trek shuffle. That's
Yeah.
been
Wow,
traditional.
They fly all over the place. That's what they do. It's just not not a good movie. And that's my biggest nitpick, of course, is the presence of Data and him being interjected into all this. Another nitpick that I had, and this was
Okay,
a
kinda
big
wrap it
one.
up 'cause we're kinda-
yeah, this is my last big nitpick here is that. So Picard agrees to go down by himself at first, right, to go help the Baku, and he brings down 7 tons of yttrium explosives, 48 pulse launchers, whatever those are.
And a
He
partridge
brings
in a
down
pear
all
tree.
these weapons to people that are admitted pacifists and hate machines. 7 metric tons of explosives.
Prime directive.
Hey, if you're going to do a job, might as well do it right. And it's not. You're not interfering with the right directive, because those people had technology. It wasn't that you were introducing technology to an unadvanced race. They were an advanced race who eschewed technology because of what it did to them as a people. See the Sona for that one.
I just don't know what he was planning to do with 7 metric tons of explosives.
Go big or go home, baby.
Oh, my
All right.
God.
That being said, here,
Joel Goldsmith did the soundtrack.
All right then. Okay, so so I think we're kind of wrapping this up over here, and let us know what you all thought. Who has a thing? Who do you think won the argument here? Who had the better debate? And surprisingly, during this whole thing, nobody was chanting Jerry, Jerry, Jerry.